Hi, and welcome back to Reddit Confessions. Today's story begins not with a fight, not with a lie, but with the sound of a purse falling to the floor. It hit the tiles like a warning shot. One of those small details your brain flags, but your heart wants to ignore. But I didn't ignore it. She was in the shower, humming something upbeat. Some indie track with too much confidence. The bathroom door was shut, steam curling under the crack. And there I stood in the hallway, staring down at that purse like it had teeth. It wasn't the purse itself. It was what peeked out of the corner. A gas station receipt. I wasn't supposed to see it. But it was there, like a thread hanging off the edge of a story I hadn't been told. I didn't even mean to touch it. I swear. I just bent down to push it back in. But my fingers closed around it. It stuck to my skin like guilt. 11:46 p.m. Location, Crescent Hill, 28 miles away. Items purchased, condoms. Bottle of wine. A bag of frozen strawberries. I didn't move. My knees popped. Something inside me sank. I listened to the shower run. Still humming. Still fake. She told me she worked all night. At the clinic. Same as always. Emergencies. Late calls. Sick animals. But the clinic isn't anywhere near Crescent Hill. I reached into the bag, just to confirm I was being paranoid. Inside were 2 wristbands from a place called Club Wavelength. I had never heard of it. But I recognized the logo. It's that neon-lit club downtown that brags about, no rules, just rhythm. She told me she hated clubs. My hands were ice. I wasn't even breathing. I just stood there holding the wristbands, staring at the bathroom door like it might answer for her. That's when her phone lit up. I swear, I didn't mean to look. But my eyes jumped on it like a reflex. A name flashed across the screen, Travis, work. The message underneath. Same time next week. You're addictive. And that was it. No scream. No explosion. No confrontation. Just me, standing in the hallway at 6:03 a.m., holding the truth like it was about to shatter in my hands. And it did. I didn't say a word when she stepped out of the shower. I didn't know how. I just stood there in the kitchen, pretending to be interested in my half-eaten toast while her bare feet padded down the hallway like nothing had happened. She was drying her hair with a towel, her skin dewy from the steam, and she smiled at me like we were still living in some version of our life that wasn't collapsing beneath us. Rough shift, she said, yawning, stretching. 2 back-to-back surgeries. I might actually die. I just nodded. You smell different, I said without thinking. She paused mid-step. Just a beat. But I noticed it. What do you mean? I don't know, just not like antiseptic or dog hair, like usual, I muttered, hiding my eyes in my coffee mug. Must have been the lavender soap in the staff bathroom, she replied too quickly, then smiled again like she'd just plugged a leak in a sinking ship. I said nothing else. My heart was thudding in my ears. I could still feel the wristbands in my pocket. I'd shoved them there after her phone buzzed again, same name, same message tone. This time, it just read, thinking about you. Still tasting you. I didn't even know who Travis was. But I'd soon learn. While she crawled into bed and pulled the covers up over her face, groaning about how exhausted she was, I took her uniform, the scrubbed sheet supposedly worn through the night, and placed them quietly into the laundry basket. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I leaned in close, breathing them in. Not a trace of antiseptic. No medical smell. No blood. No disinfectant spray. Just a faint, cheap cologne I didn't recognize and something else underneath, sweat, maybe. Or worse, perfume not hers. I suddenly felt nauseous. I sat down on the toilet lid and stared at the laundry for a long time. I wanted to be wrong. Desperately. I wanted to find some innocent reason for all of it. Maybe she lent her uniform to a friend. Maybe she forgot to log in her shift. Maybe this Travis guy was just a colleague who happened to be flirty. But the red greeting card from last night said otherwise. So did the gas station receipt. And the way her voice changed when she mentioned work. It wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it, like she had practiced each syllable in the car before walking through the front door. When she finally drifted off to sleep, snoring softly like nothing in her world had changed, I tiptoed into the living room. I sat on the edge of the couch with her phone in my hand, shaking. The passcode hadn't changed. In the messages, I didn't find a long affair. No endless thread of sexting. No hour-long video calls. No heart emojis. What I found instead was worse. I found strategy. Park behind the dumpster like last time. I'll bring the other scrub so he doesn't notice anything. Don't leave the wristbands in your purse again. He's not suspicious, he trusts you way too much. That one hit the hardest. Not just because of what it said, but because it was true. I did trust her. Blindly. Fully. Stupidly. There was a photo too. One that made my fingers go cold. It was taken at 2:06 a.m. in the mirror of a dark club restroom. Her in a black crop top I'd never seen before, lips slightly parted, hair wild and curled, cheeks flushed. Behind her, over her shoulder, a man I'd never met. Grinning. Shirtless. Tattooed across the collarbone, no apologies. They both looked alive in a way I hadn't seen in years. She looked, thrilled. And I was the fool sitting in my living room, shaking over a phone, wondering if she even remembered that I existed while she was out there dancing in someone else's arms. I placed the phone back where I found it. Locked it. Set it gently on the side table like I hadn't just watched my marriage fall apart through a screen. Then I just sat there. Frozen. Paralyzed by the realization that the woman asleep in my bed had carefully, methodically built a second life right under my nose, and had even prepared excuses for when I stumbled too close to the truth. And she was good at it. Almost too good. But now I knew. I couldn't pretend anymore. The question was, what was I supposed to do with that knowledge? Because saying nothing felt like surrender. But saying something, that might destroy everything, and maybe that was exactly what needed to happen. I didn't sleep that morning. I couldn't. The sun started pushing through the blinds like it didn't care that my entire reality had been disassembled and left scattered across the living room like broken glass. Callista was still asleep in our bedroom, curled up beneath the blankets with one hand resting on the pillow next to her, my pillow. Her face looked peaceful. Maybe even satisfied. I hated that. I wandered around the kitchen for hours, not really knowing what I was doing. I picked up cereal, set it down. Refilled my coffee 3 times, never drank it. I kept playing her messages back in my mind, word for word. Every detail clawed deeper than the last. He trusts you way too much. Like I was a caricature, a gullible background character in a story that revolved around her thrill. At one point, I opened the fridge and just stood there, staring at the condiments like they could give me advice. And then I realized something that made my stomach twist again. There was a leftover takeout box. Thai food. Spicy drunken noodles. It wasn't from anywhere local. I checked the bag. The receipt said, Chi King Thai Bistro, Crescent Hill. Same place from the gas station receipt. She hadn't just gone dancing or had a moment. They'd eaten. Drank. Laughed. Probably joked about me, maybe even while wiping soy sauce off her lips. I could picture it too easily, him reaching across the table, fingers brushing hers. Her giggling like she used to do when we first dated, before we got too comfortable and I became more roommate than lover. And I guess I would have confronted her right then, burst into the bedroom and shouted every vile accusation I could form through my exhaustion and humiliation, if it weren't for the voice. Her voice. She moaned. It was quiet, but I heard it from the hallway. A soft, broken sound that was half dream and half confession. Then she said it. One word. One name. Travis. I froze. I can't tell you what it felt like to hear my wife whisper another man's name while I stood outside our room like some ghost haunting his own house. She didn't say it once, she sighed it. Soft, like a secret. Then her body shifted under the covers, and she gave a tiny, breathy laugh. I backed away from the door like I had just seen something violent. My heart wasn't even beating properly anymore. It was like my body was short-circuiting. I sat back on the couch and stared at the wall. I must have sat there for at least an hour because when I blinked again, the light had shifted, and Milo, our dog, had jumped onto my lap and started whining softly, like even he didn't know what to do with me. That's when it hit me, if she was dreaming about him, whispering his name, laughing in her sleep, this wasn't just some fling or thrill-seeking nonsense. This was emotional. It was buried deep in her. He had gotten inside her in a way I clearly hadn't in years. I didn't know what was worse, the physical betrayal, or the way she seemed to feel something for him. The kind of something she hadn't given me in so long I could barely remember what it felt like. When she finally woke up, she came out in one of my old t-shirts like it still meant something. She stretched, smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, "I feel human again." I stared at her, blank. She didn't notice. She never does. She grabbed a glass of water and said, "Can we do something low-key tonight? Maybe watch a movie?" I missed you. That part made me want to laugh. You missed me. You missed me the way a fox misses the henhouse. But I nodded. Smiled. Played my part. Because now, I needed a plan. I couldn't explode. I needed more than just suspicion and receipts. I needed proof she couldn't twist into another one of her rehearsed little excuses. I needed something undeniable. Because if I was going to confront her, it had to be at the perfect time. And something told me that time was coming sooner than either of us expected. That night, I watched her like someone waiting for a fire to start. Every movement she made felt foreign, like I was living with a near-perfect replica of the woman I married, same face, same habits, but something beneath the surface had been rewritten. Her laughter came too easily, her touches felt hollow, and her eyes didn't hold mine the way they used to. But the scariest part? She was good at pretending. Too good. We sat on the couch under the soft glow of our living room lamp, watching a rom-com she picked. One of those generic ones where the characters fall in love in a coffee shop and argue about nothing. She laughed at all the right beats, curled her feet under herself, rested her head on my shoulder like we were still in sync. But I couldn't relax. Not even a little. My body was tense, coiled like a spring while I fought to play along. I pretended to scroll through my phone while she watched the movie, but my mind was miles away. I knew I couldn't go another day faking this, yet I also couldn't blow everything up on a hunch. The texts. The receipts. The wristbands. It was damning, but it still left too much room for denial, and if I'd learned anything in our marriage, it was that Callista could lie like she was born to do it. She could make you doubt the truth even while it was standing right in front of you. So I decided I'd go deeper. I knew she kept a second phone. She thought she was slick about it, but I'd seen the flash of it once, a black case with a faint red scratch across the back. She had pulled it from her bag in the laundry room when she thought I was in the garage. I didn't confront her then because, well, I wanted to be wrong. I needed to be wrong. But now that illusion was gone. I waited until she fell asleep on the couch. Her head slumped slightly, mouth parted just enough for that shallow, rhythmic breathing to begin. I stared at her for a long time. Not because I still saw the woman I loved, but because I was looking at the woman who had broken me without hesitation, and managed to fall asleep with zero guilt. I slipped off the couch and crept toward her bag. It was under the side table, half-zipped, wide open like an invitation. Inside, between a compact mirror and her earbuds, was the phone. The second one. It was locked, of course. But what she didn't know was that I had watched her enter the passcode a week ago, 5 quick taps in the elevator mirror while she thought I was checking my shoes. 1993, her birth year. She really thought I wouldn't notice something so basic. The screen unlocked. What I found inside that phone changed the tone of everything. This wasn't just some affair with Travis. It was organized. There were messages from other men too. Older ones. Some new. Most short-lived. But all following the same pattern: meet late, lie about work, switch outfits, new perfume, keep it transactional. Some sent money. Others gifts. One even talked about last time at the cabin. Another mentioned that he left his tie in her car. I felt physically ill. Travis was the most recent, but he wasn't the first. He wasn't even the second. Or third. She had turned her night shifts into something else entirely. A world I hadn't even imagined. Not until that moment. And suddenly, my sense of betrayal widened. It wasn't just the lying. It was how easy it was for her. How much of a life she had managed to build outside of me, hidden in plain sight, all while still calling me pumpkin and asking if I wanted extra cheese on my pasta. Then something new came in. A live message. It was from Travis. That thing you whispered last night. I still can't believe it. He seriously has no clue. My chest collapsed. She was awake, sitting beside me just hours ago, pretending to laugh at a movie, and now this man was texting her about some intimate, whispered confession that I'd never heard, and never would. I knew I had two options. I could keep pretending. Keep letting her fill our house with her practiced lies. Or I could wait just a little longer. Let her keep talking. Let her keep digging her own grave. And then I'd give her the truth back. Loud. Public. Final. But I'd do it my way. By the next morning, everything felt slower, like I was moving through syrup. But the strange thing is, for the first time in days, I felt calm. Numb, yes. Hollow, sure. But also strangely in control. Because now I had the full picture. The deception wasn't just a single crack in our relationship, it was a structural collapse. And the woman sleeping in our bed wasn't just unfaithful. She was something else entirely. A performer. A strategist. A liar who had practiced so long, she believed her own script. So I decided, if she could act, then so could I. I started small. I brought her coffee in bed. She blinked at me like I'd grown a second head. I kissed her forehead and said, "I missed you last night." Her eyes lingered a bit too long on mine, trying to gauge whether I was being sarcastic. I wasn't. I was being dangerous, just in disguise. She got up and started rambling about how she needed to run errands and might have to go back in tonight. "There's been a parvo outbreak at the clinic," she said with a heavy sigh, like she carried the world on her shoulders. "Right. Parvo. Sure." I nodded. "That sounds awful. Let me know if you need anything." She left not long after. Same scrubs. Same scent. Same lie. Only this time, I followed her. I waited 10 minutes, then got in my car and turned off my phone's Bluetooth. I stayed 2 blocks behind, heart racing like I was 16 again, sneaking out of my parents' house, only this time, it wasn't rebellion. It was clarity. She didn't go to the vet clinic. She took a left onto the freeway, sped past our exit, and drove another 15 minutes toward the city. I stayed back, switching lanes, pulse in my throat. Eventually, she pulled into the lot of a small boutique hotel near the industrial district. No flashy signs. No security cameras I could see. Just red brick and shadows. She parked. Adjusted her hair in the mirror. Pulled out a different top from her bag and slipped it over her scrub top. Then she got out and walked straight inside. I didn't move. I just stared at that door, wondering what her lies looked like when she didn't know anyone was watching. Did she giggle differently? Did she say the same things to him she used to say to me when we first fell in love? She was in there for 43 minutes. When she came out, her face looked brighter. Relaxed. Not the, "I've been with a dying dog all night," look she gave me so easily. This was the face of a woman who had just gotten everything she wanted, and couldn't wait to come home and spin it into a story I'd sympathize with. She stopped at a gas station on the way back, probably to add another fake timestamp to her story. Bought gum. An energy drink. Wiped her lips in the mirror and fluffed her hair. By the time she came through our front door, I was back in my seat with a sandwich and a casual smile. She walked in, tossing her bag down like nothing happened. Today was chaos, she groaned, grabbing a water bottle. I swear, if one more person brings in a pit bull with a cough. I smiled. You look like you've had a rough day. She hesitated. Yeah. Non-stop. I stood up and kissed her cheek. You're amazing. I don't know how you do it. And right there, for the first time, she flinched. Barely. Just a breath of a reaction. But I saw it. Her lie had grown too big, too heavy to carry smoothly. And that crack. That was mine now. Over the next 2 days, I followed her again. 3 more times. 3 different hotels. 2 different men. One of them. Travis. The second one was older, in a suit. The third wore scrubs too. That one chilled me, because I realized she wasn't even being creative anymore. It was just a rotating door of attention, flattery, whatever thrill she needed that day. But here's what she didn't know, I was collecting everything. Pictures. Video. Screen recordings of messages she thought were deleted. I had timestamps. Hotel check-in data. I even took her burner phone and cloned it using software I didn't even know existed until 2 days ago. It was the first time my IT background felt like a weapon. This wasn't just revenge anymore. It was exposure. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to cry. I didn't even want her back. I wanted her to know what it felt like to have your reality pulled out from under you. To sit in a room and feel your stomach drop as someone calmly explains just how much you've been seeing, how every lie, every touch, every moan whispered in someone else's ear was silently recorded and packaged into a box waiting to be opened. And I knew exactly where, and when, she'd be forced to open it. 3 days later, she surprised me. That alone was rare. Callista rarely planned anything for us anymore. But she came home that afternoon with groceries she picked out, not just delivery leftovers or frozen meals. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, "Don't make plans tonight. I'm cooking for us." Part of me wanted to laugh out loud. Another part of me, the part that still remembered how we were in the beginning, wanted to believe it was genuine. That this dinner was about reconnecting, maybe even guilt. But I knew better. I had seen the burner messages earlier that morning. She'd texted Travis something that said, "Can't come out tonight, gotta do the good wife routine." So, the dinner wasn't for me. It was for the illusion. A maintenance ritual for the man she thought was still in the dark. But I wasn't in the dark anymore. I had the light now. And I was ready to burn it all down, slowly, carefully, on my terms. Still, I played along. I offered to help with the food. She declined, another red flag. Callista used to love cooking together. She'd talk while I chopped. Laugh at my clumsy onion dice. But that night, she wanted control. She wanted the kitchen all to herself, like it was a stage and she was preparing for an audience who didn't know the script. I sat at the table, pretending to scroll through memes while I watched her pour wine. My wine. The bottle I'd been saving since our anniversary 3 years ago. She didn't even ask. Just uncorked it like it was any Thursday night. I thought about the hotel footage still sitting in my cloud drive. The screenshots. The synced GPS logs. All collected, categorized, and ready. She had no idea that while she was sautéing garlic and humming a song she didn't know the lyrics to, I had already written the ending of her little play. Dinner was nice. Too nice. Steak, asparagus, potatoes, the works. She wore perfume I hadn't smelled in a long time, the same one she used to wear when we were still newlyweds. She even curled her hair. Told me I looked good. Touched my arm when she laughed. And then, right when I thought she might leave the performance there, she leaned forward with those wide, fake sincere eyes and said, "I've been thinking about us lately. How maybe we've let things get dull. And I don't want that. I want to be better. For us." I didn't blink. She was testing me. Maybe some part of her knew I'd seen something. Maybe she was trying to get ahead of it. Rewrite the ending before the truth could. Or maybe it was guilt. Real, pitiful guilt that had festered just enough to make her twitch at the idea of consequences. I leaned back in my chair and smiled. "I'm really glad to hear that." She lit up. Genuinely. Like she believed me. Like my forgiveness was just that easy. But forgiveness wasn't on the menu. I waited until we finished dessert, a store-bought cheesecake she tried to pass off as homemade, and then I stood, picked up my plate, and said, "Actually, I got something for you too." Her eyes lit up with that nervous curiosity that only liars get. "Oh. What is it?" "It's not here. It's at the restaurant." She blinked. "What restaurant?" I smiled. "I made a reservation. Thought it might be nice to finish the night out. Just the two of us." She hesitated. "I mean, I already made dinner." "Yeah," I said, placing a hand gently on her shoulder, "and it was perfect. I just wanted to do something special too." She nodded slowly. Suspicious, maybe. But she smiled. "Let me go change." "Don't," I said. "You look beautiful already." And she did. Not because of the dress or the makeup, but because I knew it might be the last time I ever saw her try that hard to fake who she used to be. We drove together. Calm. Laughing at dumb radio commercials. She rested her hand on my thigh at red lights. She kept checking her reflection in the mirror like a woman preparing for a proposal. But what waited for her was something else entirely. I had rented out a small private room at a downtown restaurant. Nothing flashy, just a quiet space with 2 chairs, 1 table, and a screen. A screen I had already connected to my laptop. When we walked in, she looked confused. "Where's the host?" I gestured to the seats. "Just us tonight." She sat down slowly, eyes scanning the room, nerves rising. And then I clicked play. The screen lit up. It wasn't a video. Not yet. Just a photo, her and Travis, holding hands in the parking lot of that boutique hotel. Time-stamped. Clear as daylight. Her face froze. I said nothing. Another photo. A different man. Same hotel. Different night. Then another. And another. Until her expression cracked. Until her hands started shaking. Until she finally whispered, "Ellis, what is this?" I looked at her like I didn't even recognize her anymore. "You tell me." She didn't move for a full 30 seconds. Not even a flinch. Just her eyes locked on the screen, watching the timeline of her betrayal unfold frame by frame. I sat across from her in silence, not because I wanted to hurt her, I was way past that, but because I needed her to sit in the gravity of it. No yelling. No accusations. Just the cold, surgical display of what she had carefully hidden from me for months, maybe longer. When the first video played, her mouth opened slightly like she might say something, but no words came out. It wasn't explicit. It didn't have to be. Just her in a hotel lobby, adjusting her hair while waiting for someone who walked in 2 minutes later. A man I didn't recognize. Tall, heavy-set, in business attire. She greeted him like they'd done this a dozen times before. Her body language said it all, confident, flirtatious, rehearsed. She reached forward and paused the screen herself. Then finally, she whispered, "Why would you do this?" I blinked. That was her first question. Why would I do this? Why? I repeated quietly. Because for the last year, I've been in a marriage by myself. She shook her head, blinking fast, already reaching for whatever story she had ready to spin, but I cut her off before she even got started. Don't insult me with explanations, Callista. I don't want your rewrites. She stared down at her hands, which were trembling now. Her entire face seemed to collapse into itself, not from guilt, but from exposure. Like she finally realized she had nowhere else to hide. I wasn't going to tell you, she admitted softly. That part was obvious. I didn't want to hurt you. Then you shouldn't have done it. Her jaw clenched. And that's when her mask cracked in a different direction. You don't understand what it's like, she snapped suddenly, looking up at me now, voice rising like a cornered animal. To feel like you're invisible. Like you live with someone who treats routine like affection. Every day, it was just wake up, work, dishes, bed. You never asked me what I wanted. You were just, there. And there it was. The shift. I didn't even respond right away. I just sat back in my chair and exhaled. Because in her mind, this was justification. I had bored her into betrayal. She had emotionally downsized me from a husband to a habit. So that's what I was to you? I asked, voice low. A background process? I didn't say that, she said quickly. But maybe if you had paid more attention. I laughed. I actually laughed. A weak, bitter sound I couldn't control. I paid attention every day. I knew the way your eyes darted when you lied. I knew you switched perfumes depending on who you were going to see. I even knew that you deleted texts while pretending to yawn. You think I wasn't paying attention? Callista, I was drowning in you. She covered her face with her hands. Her shoulders shook, but I wasn't sure if she was crying or panicking. Maybe both. I didn't care anymore. You were supposed to be my partner, I added after a long pause. And you turned me into a prop in your double life. She looked at me then. Truly looked. And the expression on her face? It wasn't shame. It wasn't even regret. It was fear. What happens now? She asked quietly. I pulled a small envelope from my pocket and slid it across the table. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. She knew what it was. Inside, copies of everything. A drive with the footage. Printed screenshots. Her full double-life dossier, time-stamped, compiled, and sealed. That's yours to keep, I said. So the next time you try to flip the script, you'll remember who wrote the ending. She stared at the envelope like it was radioactive. You're not going to show anyone, she whispered. No. I don't need to. Then why? Because I wanted you to see what I became while you were busy being someone else. I stood up. She reached out instinctively, like touching my wrist might rewind time, but I pulled away gently. I turned, walked to the door, paused, then looked back at her one last time. You always said you hated living a boring life. I hope the excitement was worth it. And with that, I walked out of that restaurant, not angry, not vindictive. Just, done. But the story wasn't over. Not yet. Because a few days later, something arrived in my inbox. Something that shattered what little understanding I thought I had of what Callista had truly become. And this time, it wasn't just about her. 3 days after that night in the restaurant, I got the email. It was from an unknown address. No subject. Just an attachment titled, "You Deserve to Know." I shouldn't have opened it, I knew that. But curiosity, or maybe closure, pulled me in. Inside was a recording. Blurry, low-resolution security footage from the lobby of the hotel I'd followed Callista to. There she was, standing at the counter. But she wasn't alone. She was arguing with someone, not Travis. Another man. Older. Stern. He looked furious. She kept looking over her shoulder. Then she said something I'll never forget, even though I couldn't hear it, I read it on her lips. "He can't find out. I'll fix it. Just give me time." The clip cut off there. No context. No sender. No explanation. But it told me enough. Her secrets were layered even deeper than I realized. There were things I hadn't seen, maybe never would. And strangely, that thought brought me peace. Because it proved something I'd been struggling to accept: her betrayal wasn't about me. It wasn't about my quiet routines or my predictable love. It was about her. Her choices. Her emptiness. Her need to feel powerful, admired, wanted, even if it meant building her self-worth on a foundation of lies. I deleted the video. Not in anger. Just to let it go. The following week, I moved out. Quietly. I packed what mattered, left her the house, because honestly, every room in it felt like it had her fingerprints on the lies. I found a small apartment across town. Nothing special. But it had sunlight in the mornings, a corner coffee shop downstairs, and a landlord who played jazz through the vents like it was his personal mission. I started rebuilding slowly. Therapy. Journaling. Long walks with Milo. Even tried cooking for myself again, badly, at first. But I'm learning. What surprises me most is how peaceful life feels without pretending. I don't have to watch over my shoulder. I don't wonder where she is or whether I'm being lied to. The silence used to feel like loneliness. Now it feels like freedom. And no, I didn't seek revenge. I didn't send the footage to her family, her job, or her many mystery boyfriends. I didn't blast her across social media or try to ruin her life. She's going to have to live with her own choices. That is its own kind of sentence. As for me, I'm still figuring things out. But I finally understand that love isn't about fighting to stay where you're not valued. It's about recognizing when it's time to walk away, even if your voice shakes while doing it. If you've ever been in a situation like mine, where the truth slowly chips away at your heart one quiet discovery at a time, let me just say, you're not weak for loving. You're strong for surviving. And you're never, ever as alone as you think. Thanks for watching this confession on Reddit Confessions. If something in this story resonated with you, or reminded you of a moment in your own life, maybe a turning point, a red flag you ignored, or even a peaceful ending, drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Who knows, your story might help someone else feel less alone too. Until next time, stay honest, stay curious, and remember, some endings are really beginnings in disguise. Subscribe for more confessions like this.